we had to let him go. No, hello? Okay, great, thank you. Where are my candle holders? Okay.
Thank you.
I was like, wow, really? I need to stay up all night more often. Yeah, but thank you. Great. And
They're
who?
standing next to each other.
Answer, okay. Hi, Glenn. Nope. I do not. Amber, we can roll. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. It's nice to be back with everybody from a little hiatus that Rabbi Flip and I took with our family this last Shabbat. So it's good to be back with you all, and it's lovely to always be with Amber Eichmann here on our Bima. Cantor Josh is, I'm not exactly sure where. To be honest, our paths have crossed in the night, but it is a treat always to welcome Amber and her beautiful voice and musical talents with us. So thank you, Amber. So it was 586 BCE when the first temple was destroyed in Jerusalem. It was a moment that forced the movement of many in the Israelite community to Babylon. The tragedy easily could have meant the end of our tradition. Losing the temple did not just mean losing land and sovereignty. It meant, in fact, losing hope itself. Now, one document has left a vivid record of the mood of the Jews at that time, and one of the most famous of the Psalms, which you're likely familiar with, "By the waters of Babylon, we sat and wept as we remembered Zion." So how can we sing the songs of God, of Adonai, in a strange land? Our ancestors asked. Of course they felt despair. Of course they felt the pain of losing what they knew. The amazing part is the wisdom and leadership that it took to evolve from that moment, to change and survive and thrive again as a people. As they cry by the banks of the water, Jeremiah the prophet implores them to find their resolve and make a home in their new land. He says, "Build houses and live in them. Plant gardens and eat their fruit. Marry, beget sons and daughters. Multiply there, do not decrease. Seek the welfare of the city to which I have exiled you, and pray to God on its behalf, for in its prosperity you shall prosper." The prophet Jeremiah teaches the Israelites to start living life. In the face of adversity, find that little well of resilience that lives within you and build your homes and plant your gardens. Jeremiah goes on to tell the people to have faith and to live life with hope, a message that is, in fact, powerful for our time as well. As Rabbi Flip and I prepare to travel to Jerusalem with many of our Nashville rabbinic colleagues in just 2 short weeks, I've thought back to our many Micah trips to Israel over the past 18 years. I realize that the Jewish family of 2023 is certainly different than the Jewish family of 1948. And while those 75 years have witnessed incredible changes, there are still religious, cultural, and familial values that continue to embrace us. What will it mean to be a Jew in 2024? What will it mean in the face of a complicated world? How will we cultivate our garden of opportunity? To be a Jew in 2024 will have new demands on our resilience, our commitments, and our engagement. To be a Jew in 2024 will open doors to conversations we never before imagined and to opportunities perhaps we never before considered. To be a Jew in 2024 will allow ancient wisdom to weave into contemporary resolve. To be a Jew in 2024 will demand that we take a stand. Judaism has in fact changed, and that's a good thing. But Judaism also honors a long and proud history, and so this is our moment in time to live with hope and determination and an unwavering spirit. This Shabbat, as we look towards a new secular year, may we find that strength in our tradition. And so to get on with our Shabbat, we invite Barbara Bender and Ann Stern forward to kindle our Shabbat lights.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
We'll continue, if you're able to please rise with the words of Hatzi Kaddish.
Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
V'yamad yivrach irtei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayechon
uvyomechon uchayei dechol Beit Yisrael. Bagala, bagala, uvizman kariv.
v'yimeru.
Amen. Yehi shmei Rabba mevorach, le'olam olam me'amaya, yitbarach.
Yitbarach v'yishabach, v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal, shmei d'kudashah.
Brichu.
Leila min kol birchata v'shirata,
Tushbechata v'nechemata, damiran be'alma.
v'yimeru.
Amen. Please be seated and we'll continue praying the words of Ahavat Olam.
Ahavat olam,
We continue chanting together the words of Ve'ahavta.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
So, Rabbi Flip, I'm changing our schedule a little bit for services tonight because our Haftorah this week is from Vayechi. Well, that's our Parsha. The Haftorah that accompanies Vayechi this week is from 1 Kings. And the story in that particular section of Kings talks about King David, who delivers this final deathbed message to his son and successor, who we know as Solomon. And he echoes the Torah reading in which Jacob does the very same thing on his deathbed, giving this message, these parting words and instructions to his sons. Now, I am not making a parallel when I invite Paul to come forward and share his Haftorah with us this week. It is far from a last message. In fact, every year, Paul shares his bar mitzvah Haftorah with us. Paul, how many years has it been since that first reading when you were 13?
It's only been 77 years since I first did this. One day I'm going to try to get it right.
Okay, I think you do all the time, all the time. So in lieu of, I'll tell Amber, in lieu of our traditional Micha Mocha prayer, we are pleased to have you chant this portion from 1 Kings. You know, Micha Mocha is a prayer about hope and resilience and the perseverance to stay the course, and I don't think there's any better example than you sharing your Haftorah with us each year. So,
Shabbos. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam asher bochar b'nevim tovim v'ratzov v'divrayim hanemorim b'emes. Baruch atah Adonai habocher b'torah Moshe Avdo, Yisrael Amo, V'neviehu Emes, V'tzedek. V'yikru Yimei David, Lamud V'yitza, V'shlomo V'no, Lemor, Onehi Holech B'derek Kol Haaretz, V'hazak Tov, Hoyito Le'ish, Shamato Et Mishmat Meretz, Adonai Elohecha, Lalechet b'drachav lishmor chukotav mitzvotav v'edotav chakatu b'torat Moshe laman taskil eis kol asher taseh v'eis kol asher tifneh sham laman yokim Adonai et devoro Asher diber olai lemor im yishmu vonecha et darkam Lalech ezenofai be'emez b'chol levavam v'chol nafsheham lemur lo yikared l'cha ish me'al kisei Yisrael. V'gam ata yoda'ata es asher osoli Yoav ben Tzeruya asher osa lifnei sharei tzivot Yisrael Avner ben Ner v'la'amosa ben Yeter v'yahar gen v'yasem l'milchama b'shalom v'yitain dmei milchama b'hagarotav asher b'matnav uvna'alo asher baraglo v'yasita kochmotecha v'lo tored sevoto b'shalom shalom B'livanei garzilah haladi taseh chesed v'hu b'yochlei Yisrael kichein yichovei alai b'choriv mipanei Avshalom ochicha v'hinei mecha shimi v'en gera ben haimini mibachurim v'hu kalalani kalala nemretzes B'yom lechti machanoim, v'hu yorai likroti hayarden v'yashav alo, v'adonoi lemur im amitacha. V'yata al tanakehu ki ish chacham ota, v'yadata es asher taselo, v'horadata et sevato, b'gam sha'om. Vayishkav David imamota vayikavar be'ir David hayomim asher molach David al Yisrael arboim shana b'chevron molach sheva shonim v'Yerushalayim molach shloshim v'shalosh shonim u'shlomo yoshav al kisei David ovir v'dikein malachto Ma'od Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam tzur kol haolamim tzadik b'chol hadorot hoel hanemon haomer v'yoseh hamadaber m'kashem shekol barav emes v'tzedek nemon atahu Adonai Eloheinu v'nemronim devorecha v'dovorecha midvorecha achor lo yoshuv rekam Ki amelech neman rachaman ata baruch ata Adonai oel haneman b'chol davarav. Rachaim al Tzion ki hiveis chayenu v'la'uf has nefesh toshia b'imheira v'yameinu baruch ata Adonai v'sameach Tzion b'vonecha. Samecheinu Adonai Eloheinu b'Eliyahu hanavi avdecha u'malachut beis David mashichecha B'imheira yavov yogel libenu al kiso lo yeshiv zor v'lo yinchelu od acharim es kavodo ki v'shem kutchecha nishbata lo shelo yichben ora le'olam voed baruch atah Adonai mogen David al haTorah v'al hanavah v'al hanavim v'al yom haShabbat hazeh shenatata lanu Adonai Eloheinu likudisha v'limenucha L'chod ultifores. Al hakol Adonai Eloheinu anachnu modim lach u'borchim otach yisborech shimecha b'fi kol chai to'amid le'olam voed baruch atah Adonai makadesh haShabbat.
Okay, Paul, don't leave. Paul, 13-year-olds should chant as well as you at 90. Amazing. And we can't miss this opportunity to offer you a blessing because you are such a blessing to us and that you share this with us every year. And so we offer you these words. Rabbi Flip is going to join me. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha.
May God bless you. May God bless you and keep you safe.
Yaher Adonai panav elecha v'yichunecha.
May God's face shine upon you and bring you joy.
Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom.
May God's countenance shine upon you and through you, and may you and our whole broken world be granted that greatest gift. May you always have a sense of shalom, a sense of wholeness, and a sense of peace. We're a Reformed congregation. If we're chanting Haftarah on a Friday night, you can clap for this man, I think. Okay. As Dr. Paul Barnett here makes his way back down into our community, I'm going to have Rabbi Lori raise our lights. We always take a few moments in the midst of the turmoil of the world and the turmoil of the week on Shabbos to share as a community some of the happier things that are going on, thus feeling a little more joy on our Shabbat. Does anyone have a birthday last week, this week? No. Okay. Dr. Bob Smith. Okay. Happy birthday to you. Many, many more. Ad mea esrim, we say until 120. Is anybody celebrating an anniversary of significance? What do you got? Yes.
Our 67th anniversary tomorrow.
67 years. I don't even, I'm like in awe. Lori, we'll go for it. We'll go for it. Yeah. What do you got, Susan?
We just spent the holidays with Glenn's parents, and they celebrated their 69th wedding anniversary the day after Christmas. My father-in-law said it was the best day to get married because the stores are closed the day before to buy an anniversary gift. But they are still so happy and so much in love.
I think our Hebrew word is besheret. It's very nice when people find each other that way and they can make it last. It takes work. And it takes a little bit of joy, and that's why we're doing it. Anybody else celebrating anything? Anybody else got something good? What do you got? I'm coming all the way over here. Dun, dun, dun.
I retired 30 minutes ago.
I retired 30 minutes ago. You could have shouted that one. Well, congratulations. Okay. Well, that being the case, we also think about the things that concern us in the world. And we've been offering this weekly prayer now for those who do not have that sense of freedom that we often take for granted. We think specifically of all the hostages that still remain in Gaza, and we pray with the Jewish people everywhere for them. So I invite you to join me in this one line. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech ha'olam, matir asurim. We think of all those people in dark places, and we think sometimes of the dark places that we also experience. And I'm going to invite Amber back up here to lead us in a Hashkivenu prayer.
Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, v'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, v'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim. Ushmor tzitenu, u'enu, l'chaim u'shalom, me'ata ve'ad olam. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, v'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, v'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim.
We once again invite those who do not find it difficult to please rise for tefillah, our central prayer.
Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei Avotenu ve'imotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak ve'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim V'Konei Hakol V'Zocher Chastei Avot V'Imahot Umevi Gula Livnei V'Nehem Leman Shemo Be'ahava Melech Ozer Umoshia Umagen Baruch atah Adonai Magen Avraham Ve'ezrat Sarah Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai B'chayei HaKol Atah Rav Lehoshia Mashiv HaRuach Umorid HaGashem Mechalkel Chayim B'chesed Mechayei HaKol Berachamim Rabim Somech Noflim V'Rofei Cholim Umatir Asurim Umkayem Emunato Lishenei Afar Michamocha Bal Gevurot Umido Melach Melech Memit Umechaye Umatzniach Yeshua V'ne'eman atah l'hachayot hakol Baruch atah Adonai Michayei hakol Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh U'kdoshim b'chol yom yahalalucha selah Baruch atah Adonai Ha'el HaKadosh.
We always leave a little time for silence for what we call Avodah Balev, for the prayers of your own heart. And when you are through, you may be seated.
Ve'al
This is not the first time that Amber Eichmann has lent us her beautiful music, voice, and talents, and she will be with us again. We at Micah, most of us believe that God is especially attentive when beautiful music is heard in our sanctuary. And so it's at this point that we think about people in this community and other people you may know of who are in need of a prayer for healing. Our list includes Mark Schwartz and Eddie Sandberg, John Mitchell and Robin Pillen, Matt Curlin, Debbie Brodsky, Judith Mandel, David Rose, Alan Frohl, and Sidney Rappaport. And those are just the names I have in front of me. If you'd like to add names to that list, it is certainly our custom to do so. We think of all people in need of a prayer for healing, and we invite you to sing with us.
May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
Shabbat Shalom. So it's become increasingly apparent to me recently that we all live in very different worlds. That's sometimes apparent when you travel. But Rabbi Laurie and I, like many of you, are sort of glued to what's happening in the Holy Land of Israel. And we don't really know what it's like there. We hear snippets, we hear reports, which is another reason that all the rabbis in Nashville are going together in a couple of weeks. They're moving people away from the borders. They're a country at war. I'm going to be honest, when we were at war in Afghanistan or Iraq or any of it really didn't feel like it affected my daily existence, but I'm certain in Israel it does. It's just a different world. And recently we had some academics from Vanderbilt University, some members of the congregation Micah, come and speak to our seniors. And I think academia might be a different world. They just live in a different world. I think many of the academics I know, especially ones critical of Israel, Jewish or not, because they're at war with war, which makes sense. And then there's this other world where college students exist, and we only have glimpses into that world, and a lot of the glimpses recently have not been very pretty. And so at this point, I'm going to ask our three college students to just come forward and help pull these chairs over. Amber, you can come sit over here. And there's a microphone, if you could hit that button and hold it. So to get a glimpse into the college world, I turned to some Micah college students. It seemed like an interesting thing to do because college campus has been rife with attention. And one of the scholars who came to visit us mentioned that the college campus is the only place he feels that these kinds of conversations are taking place. I don't think he's 100% correct about that because we talk about it here at Micah, and I'm sure a lot of people are talking about it in a lot of coffee shops and in a lot of places. But I say all that because we're here to get some insight from some people who have experienced it. So first, I invite you to meet Phoebe. Phoebe Stern is a religious studies major at Bates in Maine. I trained her for bat mitzvah. I never knew she'd go into religious studies. Good luck with that. Okay. This one on the end, the very good-looking one, because he looks like his mother, is Shai Rice of the University of Colorado in Boulder, who will graduate with an accounting degree. And third, we have Sydney Saul, also helped train her for bat mitzvah. I trained all three of you. Okay. From the College of Charleston. And I have given them in advance 3 questions to ask. And I told them that it doesn't really matter if they answer those questions. Because really, we just wanted insight into what they might be able to tell us about what it's like to be Jewish on campus. All 4 are seniors. By the way, if you don't like your seat, you can move. I'll get out of the way, but if you want to see them better, no one judges you by moving. But pull your chairs forward, because you're on TV also. And the first question I've really asked them, here, I'll get my notes, is, could you describe to us what life on a college campus is like being Jewish, and how that changed after October 7th? So I'm going to stop talking now, and I'm going to turn it over to them. You can go in any order.
So I'll start with before October 7th, I guess. In Colorado, it is very open and welcoming community. There is a Hillel, there's a Chabad. Both put on plenty of events. Both are pretty great with advertising and getting as many Jewish students as possible to be involved. You can be super, super religious, come from a very Jewish background, or just have a single Jewish relative or no Jewish relatives. Kind of want to learn more about the culture and the community. It was a very opportunistic place to be Jewish. You could participate in as many events as you wanted, meet as many Jewish people, be involved in sort of that young life and culture if you wanted to be, and also just kind of participate when you wanted to as well. So if it was just kind of a once-a-month thing or whenever you had time for it, there were plenty of opportunities available, both to meet other young Jewish members of the community and be involved yourself. After October 7th, I think there were kind of 2 sides to that coin. The first was a kind of a hopeful side. I was lucky that my university was very supportive of the Jewish community and in both the cultural space and safety-wise. So they came out with a voice of support. The chancellor talked about both, spaces for conversation about what was going on in Israel, and also just increased security and increased safety for Jewish students and Jewish faculty, which was, I think, big for a lot of students who had heard stories kind of across the country about other situations, and wanting to still be able to practice their Jewish identity. It gave students the space to do that, which I was very grateful for, and I know the community was very grateful for as well.
Okay, I go to the College of Charleston in South Carolina. As Shai said, it's a great place. Before October 7th, it's the same. We have a Hillel, we have a Chabad. There are opportunities to take parts in a lot of different things, just the usual Jewish life, I guess. But then after October 7th, there was definitely, for me, there was a lot of fear. With a lot of the people that I go to college with, there were a lot of people posting on social media and stuff that, it was a little questionable. There's a lot of misinformation being thrown around. And it was nice in some of my classes with Jewish professors, they addressed the issue, but outside of those classes, it was not talked about whatsoever. No one brought it up. It seemed like, unless you were Jewish on our campus, you did not know what was going on until things started to ramp up a little more and people started taking to social media. But yeah, so.
Okay, so I go to school in Bates, super small campus in rural Maine, and there are around 200 Jewish students. We don't have a Chabad or Hillel. We have a Jewish student union, completely student-run. Leading up to the events, always super great, super supportive environment that you can come if you grew up in a very Jewish household, or if you want to get reconnected with your Judaism, or if you just want to come for the holiday. But we would go, we have services, you go apple picking, all great things, just a really supportive environment. After October 7th, there's a big change that Jewish students didn't always feel really safe being Jewish on campus, showing that they were Jewish. Kind of to echo Sydney's experience, there wasn't any support from administration. It took 6 days to send an email addressing anything that had happened. And it was as a response to emails that had been sent by students being like, we don't feel safe right now, please have our back. I'm the president of the Jewish Student Union, so had a lot of students coming up to me. I probably had around 10 students come and say, can you walk me to class? I don't feel safe. You're the only reason that I feel safe on campus right now, which is pretty appalling because I'm coming from this super liberal campus that's supposed to be super welcoming and open to everyone, and that every Jewish student, for the most part, felt alienated and did not feel safe expressing their Judaism.
Yeah, so I'm going to tangent for a second. You don't have to answer. I'm curious if there's a difference between safe and challenged, which is to say, I would think on a college campus that there would be dialogue and that there would be an opportunity to disagree about things. Our whole Talmud has lots of disagreeing, and physically feeling threatened and so you're saying people felt threatened.
Walking around campus, I heard the Jews in Israel deserve to die. I know people I was living there this summer, know people who have been killed. I also heard I would prefer to have Hamas in charge than the Israeli government. It's funny that the Jews think that they're safe in Israel. There was a swastika put up around campus, and it took me emailing the president and being like, hey, you need to do something. You need to say that you can't draw swastikas around campus. That it took me reaching out to him to have him send an email and be like, hey, maybe don't do this. So I think that students genuinely did not feel safe being on campus, yeah.
The second question, unless you have a response to that, Sydney. Yeah, the second question I think sets this up, which is I asked them to share some stories that would either scare us, inspire us, or both.
I guess I'll start because I had an incident that happened following October 7th with a few friends of mine, and a friend of mine was assaulted on the main street of our city. Had to talk to the authorities and all of that fun jazz. It was definitely scary because I had already had a lot of anxiety about, leaving the house post October 7th because there had been a lot of things posted and a lot of things said by my peers and stuff like that. And for that to actually happen was just kind of crazy to me. It was very scary. And so that was definitely a thing, and a lot of people that I was close with, or a lot of people that I knew didn't know that had happened, because I wasn't super public with talking about it. But so that was scary. But then it was a little inspiring. We had a vigil for the victims of October 7th, and seeing how many people came out to support. How many faculty, and then also some of my peers that I was in classes with, I had no idea that they were Jewish, and they showed up, and so it definitely kind of brought us together in a way. So that was, I guess, a little bit of a redeeming experience for what I had to go through. But yeah.
I guess I'll share one that's a little bit more inspiring, maybe. Kind of in the immediate aftermath of October 7th, we were working with Hillel and Stand With Us to think of good ways to kind of raise awareness isn't maybe the right word, but show support for Israel and for the Jewish students on campus. And one of the fears I think that a lot of students had, although they might have felt immediately safe was to be sort of proud to be Jewish and vocal about their Jewish identity. So we wanted to see if we could garner a lot of support for displaying the Israeli flag and other symbols of their Jewish identity at specifically football games and other events that were going to be nationally televised on campus. Our Hillel on campus has what they call student leaders, where if they either publicly broadcast and market an event or have pre-October 7th certain things that they want to, certain pop-ups, events that they want to have on campus, they'll message this group of student leaders to kind of spread the word around campus to their friends who might either not be involved in Hillel or other parts of Jewish life, but are proud of their Jewish identity, or maybe are involved in some of the Jewish fraternities and sororities, or know of friends who are Jewish and also not involved, to kind of spread kind of like an unofficial Jewish network. And so we spread the word in that way about showing support for Israel immediately following the October 7th events. And there were some mixed responses, no one saying this is not a good idea, but more so some students were super interested and wanted to get involved, and then I think others were a little bit more hesitant to be involved with that sort of thing and show that support. And I think, Sydney mentioned social media earlier. There is a large vocal outcry on social media that I think bleeds the line between the dialogue about what is going on in Israel and anti-Semitism a lot of the time. And I think that was what was most scary for some students who were struggling with their Jewish identity. What was very surprising to me was as we were handing out Israeli flags and signs showing support for Israel and other things outside of the football stadium, there was a lot of vocal support from both Jewish and non-Jewish students, which was really good to see, because I think social media can show a very warped view of people's beliefs. And I don't know the exact numbers, I don't know the statistics, I don't want to call it a loud vocal minority of sort of Israeli hate and anti-Semitism, but I think it definitely exists online, and I don't know if that is necessarily the case for people's actual beliefs in the real world. So that was really great to experience, was kind of that show of support from, again, Jewish and non-Jewish students.
You got one, Phoebe, you want to share?
Yeah, so I started with the stuff to scare y'all, but inspirational. It's been really cool to see Jewish students who've never showed up to a JSU event before come and be like, hey, I want to be more involved. I want this to be a larger part of my life, and I want to be surrounded by more Jewish peers. And that's been really incredible to see students coming together and trying to figure out, okay, how can we make a difference? That it's a really small campus, and one voice really does matter, and seeing people take advantage of that. And already talking with a bunch of students about putting up some Israeli flags around campus. I put up one 3x5 and already got a lot of not so great feedback by that, which is hard to see, but I'm hoping that we'll be able to keep on and move in the right direction.
Okay, so in the interest of time, I have two more questions, but you can answer either of them. Does that sound fair? I asked them, knowing that most of us are not of their generation, I asked them what we really should know about college campus, or if they want, and they could give advice to someone as they are about to finish school, that is about to start school, about how to navigate Jewish life on campus. Which one do you guys want? Pick either.
I can start, I guess. My mind's gone blank. Hold on. Someone else.
Yeah, I think, I was very fortunate to grow up in the Micah community and the National Jewish community and have a really strong sense, or so I think, of my Jewish identity and how that fits into my life, my family's history, my own history. And I think, and I don't know, but from my experience, a lot of young Jewish people don't necessarily have that cultural and historical knowledge and background. It is, I think, much easier in this day and age to be Jewish because your family's Jewish, or because, you know, it's kind of what you've always identified with. Maybe you just kind of go to synagogue for the High Holy Days, or you just celebrate Hanukkah, or you just, you know, identify with that religion because you want to have an answer in that conversation when somebody asks. You know, that is something that the events on October 7th, I think, brought to the forefront for a lot of people, was what that relationship with Judaism really means to them. I know it did for me. And so for both students entering college and just kind of what it means to be Jewish, to kind of answer both questions, I think there's going to be now much more important conversations around what it means to be Jewish and what it means to be supportive of Israel, because those are two different things, but also very intertwined and important. And as unfortunate as those events were, I think those are necessary conversations to have with yourself and with peers. So I think, almost in a way, it's a movement in the right direction for the Jewish community, especially the young Jewish community, to be able to have those conversations.
So, right now, it is hard to be a Jew in this world. It is very hard to be a young Jew, especially. I'm sure some of you are on social media, but I know our generation is very wrapped up in it, and it is hard nowadays because there is no shortage of hate when you go on, especially if you're just looking for the support and looking for other people to reassure your views, because there are so many people that are so open with, it's borderline anti-Semitic, a lot of the stuff that is said, you know, and so it's hard being a young Jew right now, and you get so wrapped up in it sometimes, but, you know, it's nice to have a community that you can turn to, and it has opened up some very good conversations for me with some of my peers, but it's definitely a difficult time. But if you're going into college, don't hesitate to reach out to some people. It's a great way to find people. Great way. That's one commonality you'll always have with another Jewish person, is you have that heritage, you have that identity. So it's kind of great.
Yeah, I think both Shai and Sydney said that really well, and I want to reiterate that. I think for those going into college, establish who the other Jewish students are on campus. It's nice to have that community, and you don't have to go to every single Shabbat, but just to know that there are other people that have the same values is really, really reassuring. And yeah, I think Sydney said this really well, but it is scary to be a young Jewish person who has a love for Israel right now. And that I was talking about this with my brother, but that our grandfather came to the United States because he was told, you will never have a place to be a Jew, or you cannot be a Jewish doctor in Canada. There's no place for you. And that he came to America so that us being Jewish would not have to affect our life, and that here we are, and this is already affecting me. And I'm thinking, as I'm moving on to applying for jobs, okay, can I even say that I was living in Israel? How is that going to affect me? Can I say that I'm very involved in Jewish life? How's that going to affect me? And that the things that my grandpa was dealing with 70, 80 years ago are still things that I have to deal with to this day. And I think that that's something that you wouldn't necessarily think about, but we're still here.
Round of applause, please, for our panelists. From the bottom of our hearts, we thank you for the sincerity and your words. And we appreciate it. You guys can go back and sit down. We're going to move to concluding our service. You can have it. We think now of all those people who have given their lives for the state of Israel, who've been a blessing to humanity. We recall from our community on the anniversaries of their deaths, Barbara J. Abrams, Shirley Brown, Betty Kaplan, Ronald Cohen, Tilly Cohen, Bernard Cooper, Dave Durman III, William Raymond Farmer, Abe Freeman, Elton Henry Geschweiler, Jean Gertner, Simon Gertner, Frida Reuben Green, Max Greenberg, Saul Hahn, Dr. Sidney Harshman, Julius Jenna, Tibby Kleiner, Marcia Susan Lind, Dorothy Fishel May, William Otis, Naomi Rice, Dr. Samuel Bernard Richmond, Jay Rosenblum, Myron D. Schreibman, Scott M. Shapiro, Helen Shattuck, Dina Tuckman, and Mary Carr Wolf. We also continue to mourn as a community for Ellen Oakes and Claire Schwartz, Elizabeth Lazar, and Richard Dick Eskin, Mary Spencer, Erwin Schwartz, Patrician Helen Barnett Wind, Lizzie Kappelman, Ava Marks, Marvin Millman, Joanne Middleton, Dr. Marvin Schwartz, Sylvia Samus, Shirley Greenberg, Joseph Morton Weinstein, David Alberts, Zakaria Gendy, Trudy Levy, Charles Strobel, Mimi Mitchell, Isa Stanzel Burns, Joan Harshman, Ralph Gordon, Jeffrey Davis, Harvey Spark, and Donald Pillen, Sam Nickel, Ann Norman, Rudy Saperstein, June Landsberg Weinberg, Marilyn Brenda Otis, Evelyn Dickhouse, Hallie Scruggs, William Kinney, Cynthia Peak, Catherine Kuntz, Mike Hill, Stephen Bender, Janet Wallach, Mark Siegel, Sonia Gitchner, Scott Peters, Henry Krakauer, Lynn Davidson, Avi Poster, Wayne Ritt, Jacqueline Glassner, Elizabeth Betty McDonald. If there's any names I've neglected to mention or just ones you'd like to say aloud. We invite the community to rise one final time for Kaddish Yatom, our mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divrach yirutei v'yamlik malchutei, b'chayachon uv'yomachon uv'chayei d'kol pei Yisrael, ba'agala v'zman kari v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach la'alam u'lalmei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal, shmei d'kudisha b'richu, La'ela min kol birkata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, damiran be'alma v'imru, amen. Yehei shlomo rabba min shamaya v'chayim aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. Oseh shalom b'mramav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. We say zikranam levracha, that their memories will always live on as a blessing. I want to thank our speakers again for participating in our service. I want to thank Dr. Paul Barnett for sharing his Haftarah 77 years again later. We are going to end with a Kiddush and a closing song. Thanks especially to Amber Eichmann for joining us, and please do so again.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pri hagafen.
Amen. Okay, good apple juice. Amotzi.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi